All right, guys, we're here in the backyard right now. We're gonna go inside in a little bit, but right now we're harvesting our mint, and I just cut across the top here. No particular fashion. Harvested a lot of mint, and this is a variety here called chocolate mint. It really takes over. You have to be careful not to let it take over if you're gonna put it in the ground. I did a video on this this mint not too long ago. And I like to cut it back every so often and put it in the dehydrator and dry it so that we can have mint anytime we want, even in the wintertime. And I just like to stock up on this stuff. It's also good to just cut it back every once in a while, you know, not to let it get too crazy. I also think that maybe by doing this, we're gonna prevent some flowering. I'm not entirely sure on that. It's a bit of a theory right now, but if we can stop this from flowering, it's going to stop putting out seed heads, and those seeds will then propagate all over the yard, which could be a disaster. So we're trying to really contain this guy, and just a little work is necessary, and we get a nice reward. So we're going to go in the house in a second here, and we're going to dehydrate this. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. All right, guys, so we're in the house now, and we're just filling up these trays. I like to use a Nesco dehydrator. That's what this is. I'm not really promoting them or anything. I'm sure there's better dehydrators out there. But so far, so good with the Nesco in my mind. And we got our lots of our mint still left over, and we're just filling up these trays. And we're trying to make sure that a lot of this isn't really touching. This is kind of a lazy man form of doing this. We want to try to make sure that this is evenly drying so that none of it's really touching ideally, or none of it's overlapping, because we want it to dry evenly. The other thing I'll mention is that we don't really want to wet this stuff. Now, I guess you can wash it if you're afraid. It's good practice to wash vegetables and other things you bring in, obviously, especially if you're spraying them, but you know, I find that doing that with the water, it actually creates like a steaming effect in here. So if you're gonna wash this stuff, make sure that you dry it fully before putting it in the dehydrator. One of the other things I want to mention here is that I like to use these things. This is really nice. These are like the tray covers, I guess. So instead of getting the tray itself dirty, you get this cover dirty. Because this stuff, you know, sometimes you're drying fruit or whatever it is, and it leaves residues on here, and you want to make sure you wash this stuff after using it. Maybe if you're drying peppers especially. So you can take this and then just put this in the dishwasher or hand wash it, and you're solving your issue right here, rather than having to dry or put this entire tray in the dishwasher, which is next to impossible. So these things are really nice, and they're quite cheap. Now, we're just gonna fill this up, and then at the end, we're just gonna stick this part here on top, cover it, and then we're just gonna flip the switch on, and you can't really control the temperature with this one. Maybe you guys can with other dehydrators that you have, but I think this one runs at like 115 to 130 degrees, and then we'll just run that on here maybe for like an hour. Really not that long. Herbs really don't need a huge drying process. They don't need it to happen for a long time. So we're gonna just dry it for a short period of time, and then we're gonna put the lid back on if it needs more time. Give it another 30 minutes maybe, you know, and we're just gonna see gradually over time, rather than just doing this for like 4 hours and leaving it and coming back and then regretting it that we over dried it, and maybe it's even burnt. So yeah, I think that's my recommendation just for drying anything, is that we'll dry it for a short period of time and keep coming back and checking on it and adjusting your time. You may need to add more time. You may think, oh crap, I did this for too long. I think usually when I dry mint in the past, I've done it, I think it's only for about an hour and 30 minutes, 2 hours max, I think. So we'll see what happens this time, because I have so much of it in here that's kind of, you know, on top of each other and not really the ideal scenario. So it's not going to be perfect every time with the same amount of time that you use previously. So you're gonna have to adjust it anyway. So that's what we're doing, guys, and I'm gonna have mint all year round. In fact, you can see in here we have lots of my teas that I bought or have grown myself. So this one is a green tea that I got on Amazon that I like to drink. This is a pretty low quality green tea that's kind of cheap. And then we've also got this stuff which I bought from Japan. This is the highest quality green tea that I could find. When you brew this stuff, it actually is green, guys. That's very important. And I think in the process of brewing the tea, or actually in the process of picking the tea, if they don't immediately take it to the drying process, it starts to oxidize. Similar to how my mint is doing right now, I'm sure it's oxidizing in some form. Maybe it's losing something now that it's kind of floppy, you know. Whereas if we just picked this and put this directly in the dehydrator, I'm sure the flavor of it may change. I don't know. But for tea, it certainly does. And that's why I believe this tea here doesn't have the best flavor. It's not green, because what happened was they harvested this tea, like I said, they let it sit around for a while and they didn't process it immediately. And as a result, a green tea, which should be green, is actually yellow. And I also have in here, this in here was also from Japan. This is a roasted green tea. So this has very little caffeine in it, which is great. I love to add this stuff into this new bottle that I got. Sorry for the camera there, guys. Well, I got this bottle from Japan, which works really well. It has a strainer on the inside, and this is nice for cold brewing tea. So I'll just throw a bunch of this stuff in this bottle and brew it in this bottle. You can even cold brew it over 6 hours. It works really well. And I love roasted green tea. It has a little bit of a sweeter flavor, but it loses a lot of the nutrients, guys. So I don't really recommend this to everybody, but if you have caffeine problems, it's perfect. I don't really do well with caffeine, guys. I also have here a naturally decaffeinated green tea that I got on Amazon. I love green tea, if you couldn't tell. But I also love my herbs. So in here, we have different types of powders and stuff that I like to add sometimes to my teas to make them super. This is lion's mane. I really want to grow this mushroom. In fact, I have the stuff ready to go to colonize this mushroom in the backyard. I need logs. This here is some oolong. And we also have herbs in here. This is the mint that I have been drying, and this has lasted me quite a bit of time. And you can also add that to green tea. This is my lavender tea. So this is lavender that I've harvested from the front yard and done the same thing. I also have chamomile growing this year. So we're gonna have lots of different teas to choose from. And I'm also growing tea itself, so green tea. And we're gonna have, probably sometime this fall, we'll do a harvest, and we'll have probably not the best quality green tea, but it'll be something, right? So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video on mint and me drying this and me talking about different teas. Yeah, cheers, and I hope I see you guys again. All right, take care.